Hi, welcome to Just Show Up video blog. Today I have a very special letter that I received. It's been a few months since I received it, but I want to share a part of it with you because it's another person's story about overcoming her own personal struggle and, finding her true life and her true story with God. It's her own personal love story, if you will. But the reason why I want to share it with you today, because it touches on a very hot topic with a lot of teenagers, and that's cutting. It's cutting and self-mutilation. And that goes for both young girls and young men. So I took out anything that was very personal or anything that could maybe say who this person is. But I wanted to share with you the main gist of what her story is. So here we go. When I was 13, I'm 17 now, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. 6 months after that, my dad left my mom. I felt like all this was my fault. My mom was going through chemo regularly. My parents couldn't be in the same room with one another. My grades were slipping and the pressure was too much. I became associated with only one friend, a friend who offered me a razor blade instead of a shoulder to lean on whenever I was too overwhelmed. I would cut my arms to feel something different. I would do it to be punished, to distract, for anything. I was doing it multiple times a day. I saw no point in life and I didn't know God. I pretended to know Him, but I was afraid and ashamed to let Him see me like this. A little over a week before Christmas, I attempted suicide. I wanted out. I wanted rest. I wanted peace. I felt conflicted. My differing selves were at battle, and I just wanted it to end. The Christ and evil were battling within me. I had mastered the facade of being happy around my family and in church, but I was comfortable while my grades were dropping and my family was hurting. They could tell I wasn't myself. I was hurting them, and the combination of these things drove me to the hospital, and I was diagnosed having near borderline personality disorder and an anxiety disorder. I felt this was my final chance, my last wake-up call from God. Obviously, I hadn't died. I had some unfinished business with my life, with my relationship with God. God saved me out of pure love for me. I became more actively involved in church and with the youth group. I worked on coping skills through therapy. The friend that I had, we ended up fighting, and we went our separate ways, more or less. As hard as that was, I realized that actually God showed me that I had to help myself before I was in a position to help her. Sophomore year ended with me cutting free, trying to mend the bridges I had burned, but hopefully hadn't destroyed with my old friends. I grew in my relationship with God. I was overcoming the struggle I had within myself to forgive my friend for everything she had done to me, to herself, and what she had encouraged me to do. However, I was shown that, as with helping others, I couldn't forgive others until I had forgiven myself. I was working on that. I had a journal, but instead of filling it with angry and depressing poetry, it was full of love letters to God, poetry praising Him, His wonders, and His love. Things were great for a while. I became a junior. School was getting busy and stressful. I was working and dealing with the stresses of all of that. I became overwhelmed. I wanted to be carefree. I didn't want to worry about impressing God anymore. I wanted attention. I wanted someone to care. I wanted to do what I wanted. I turned to cutting as a release, but also a cry for help. I remembered getting ready to cut for another time, and I just put down the blade. I broke down and began to cry. God had been there, waiting for me to realize that He was right, that He was the goodness, and that He was the one ultimately in control. That's basically where I am today. It's been 202 days since I have cut myself. I am sure in God's love for me. There is no doubt in my mind that He loves me more than anything. I wouldn't be here today without God. No doubt about that. He has been there for me, giving the best advice in the strangest ways. I have temptations, but I am stronger than ever, happier than ever with God. I want to eventually be able to share my full story and help people who can relate. I want to share God's love. Like I said, there is so much more to this story, God's story. But thank you for taking the time to read this. Thank you for being a witness to God's love and forgiveness to me. Healing in Florida. I am so glad I got to share your story with so many others, just as you wanted. And I pray that you are continuing to be cut-free and carefree in God's love. To all of you who might be going through this same hurt and this same frustration and trying to find that release in mutilating your own body, I ask you now, put down that blade, talk to someone that you can trust, and get help. And please realize that God loves you and He does not want you to hurt yourself. You are worth more than mutilating your own body. You are worth more and you are loved. God bless.